watching on YouTube, please subscribe to the channel, like the video and share it if you can. Again, we've been seeing some great engagement recently, so please comment down below as well. Let us know what you think about predictions, previews, our reviews of the game, and so on. And for those of you listening on Spotify, Apple, or any other podcasting platform, please follow and give us a 5-star review. It really helps us with the algorithms and getting us in front of more listeners. As you said, let's get into the review, I guess, of the Man City Man United game. Overall, a pretty decent game in the end. Went all the way to penalties, with Man City winning it 7-6 on penalties after a 1-1 draw in the 90 minutes, with Man United obviously taking the lead and then Man City getting a late equaliser. But let's kind of run through some of the key events. So Man City, obviously, as you'd always expect, had more of the ball. I mean, that's kind of their thing, really. They dominated the ball. They had a pretty decent shot, I think, from O'Reilly, who hits the outside of the post. You guys get into the game again. A very good performance, I think, overall from Ahmad, and a really good move that kind of results in him getting a cross across the box with Mount really close to getting on the end of it. So ends up being pretty even, in my opinion, for the first half. Obviously, you've also got another good move from Rashford, who curls the ball past the post. And then you get into the second half where you made a lot of bloody changes. I will say that. I think you made 4 changes at 60 minutes. And you continue to create chances with that, with Fernandes scoring an unbelievable disallowed goal. He was off. I know in today's day and age it's a mile off, but he was off by a tiny amount, and that goal was unbelievable. Smashed it top bins from pretty far out as well. And then you've obviously got Rashford, I'm going to say, missing a sitter. Really seems to like shin it or something, or ankle it or whatever else, and it goes around the post. And then you got McTominay doing McTominay things. Actually, no, this isn't actually a McTominay thing. I will say that. McTominay things are elsewhere, but he ends up missing a tap-in, which I think is a header, kind of goal mouth right in front of the goal. Should have converted that chance, but just wasn't able to. And then you get the first goal of the game, the first real chance, and that is Garnacho scoring to put you guys 1-0 up. I think that was somewhere in the 70th, 75th, between 70th and 80th minute. Oh, 82nd minute. Okay. So quite late on. It looks like you guys are going to go into, lift another trophy so quickly. And then somehow they get an equaliser. Oscar Bob, who looked very tasty during the game, puts in a nice cross. And I know we're going to get onto this in a little bit, but Pellistri allows Bernardo Silva to get above him, puts it in for the equaliser, and it goes straight to penalties. Penalties were decent. A couple of pretty bad misses, I'm going to be honest with you. So the Bernardo Silva miss was not great. Sancho miss, poor. Evans miss looked like, I saw a joke that basically said he looked like he was playing like a soccer aid or something, because he looked like he didn't, he looked like a YouTuber that didn't know how to kick a football. And then Akanji gets kind of his remontada after the whole Euros debacle, where he actually missed a penalty against us. That put Switzerland out, and he gets the winning penalty to get City over the line. So let's talk a little bit about it, and let's start really with how you think the overall game went. Do you think you deserve to lose? Do you think you deserve to win? How do you think the game went? And then let's get into some of the key moments.
Yeah, no, I think you ran through it pretty much spot on. I think the first 25, 30 minutes, I think City were doing what they normally do, like what you expect them to do. Like you said, they have the ball. But apart from that O'Reilly shot that I think hit the post, they didn't really create too many other chances, which for me is a huge encouragement, because we talked about it all season long, and I was having to defend United constantly, saying facing shots doesn't mean that your defense is poor, but obviously we agreed on this pod multiple times. It does mean though that your midfield is leaving your defense exposed so that people can have shots, regardless of whether they're gilt-edged chances or not. It's still a not great thing to constantly face shots on your goal, regardless of whether they're clear shots or whether your defenders are blocking them. So we didn't really face too many shots, so that was a huge encouragement, even when City had a lot of the ball. But I've got to be honest, after 30 minutes, I think we outplayed them for the rest of the game, and all the major chances. If you watch any highlight reels, come from us after that. Ahmad's obviously you talked about it. Ahmad's he played really well on that right hand side. I think the only criticism I'd have of him is he did the right thing that you would hope a winger would do, which is you get to the basically a byline or with the opportunity to shoot or cross, and you should have someone running in the middle to tap it in, and he does do the right thing technically, but I think that chance wasn't on actually. And so some people are blaming Mount and saying, well, he should have been ahead a couple of steps forward. He should have been running onto it. But Ahmad was so far forward in front of the play when he did that little move with Casemiro that I actually think he should have just shot. And if he did shoot, I'm pretty sure he would have scored. He was that close to goal. And with a good angle on his left hand side on his left foot to curl it into the bottom corner. So that's the only minor criticism I have of Ahmed. Apart from that, his performance was top. He looked really dangerous every time he got the ball, and it was good to have an outlet on the right hand side, because pretty much all season long last season, unless we played Garnacho out there, Antony was useless. And anyone else that we put on that side was not effective. So it was good to see him impress on that side. I've seen a lot of stuff about Rashford. His finishing was poor, but I think his overall play was all right. He was working hard. He was tracking back. He was helping out his fullback. He was given effort, which I think a lot of people were hammering him for last season, and he looked like he wanted it. He just didn't have his shooting boots on. And it's unfortunate for him that two of the big chances in the game fell to him, and he didn't take them. But I'm not going to hammer him because I thought his overall performance was okay. And anyone that is going in on him, I think, has some unresolved agenda issues on Rashford. I think because he's doing what we asked him to do. And so yeah, man. Overall, we just had so many chances, and to lose on penalties is cruel. But really, we should have won the game in normal time. We should have never been in a position where going into the last few minutes, we were only 1-0 up, considering how many chances we had. We should have been at least 2-0 up. And then if, Silva does score that goal, which is a really disappointing goal to concede, you're just, 2-1, kind of like the cup final, really, right? You probably should have been 2-0 up, and then they score a late goal to pull one back, but it doesn't impact the result and you still get the win, because I think our performance deserved that. But it didn't happen. And unfortunately, Palestri's not a right back. I mean, even right backs that we've played before in that position have made that error. So I can't even hammer him too much, right? We've seen a lot of goals where Wan-Bissaka's been beaten at the back post to a header or a cross, or same with Delo. So I don't want to hammer Palistri too much. But it's obviously, yeah, he gets done by Bernardo for the equaliser, and then penalties. I was dreading it. As soon as I saw Sancho step up, I was like, oh, God, I know how this is going to go. I don't think he's got his remontada, as you said, quite yet. I think he's got to work a bit harder for that. And I don't think his penalty was terrible. I actually think the save was good. The only criticism of Sancho is probably he could have put it a bit higher or a bit more in the corner, but he didn't. Bernardo's penalty was poor. Evans's penalty was shocking. I think Sancho's one was more of a good save goalie, because for Edison to get his fingertips on that and touch onto the post, he had to properly stretch. So no major complaints, but yeah, just a bit sad that you don't get the result I think your performance deserves, and I think we definitely deserve to get the win on Saturday.
And so, I mean, with that in mind, did you see a noticeable change in play? Does this performance fill you with excitement or dread, or what feeling does it, or emotion does it feel or fill you with, kind of going into the season? Was it despite the loss, is it still an overall positive, or how are you viewing it?
I would say so. It was. I'm not too downbeat about it, because we made jokes all season, and we made jokes last season, because in the end the Community Shield was the only thing Arsenal won, right? And then we started joking, calling it the English Super Cup and all that kind of stuff, and some fans will then start to kind of count it as a trophy or put some extra weight onto it. I think that's like the game is the game type thing, right? If we had won, maybe United fans would be doing the same. I'm sure City fans are probably not, because they win big boy trophies all the time, so they probably are like pretty level headed about this. But I'm not that bothered about not getting the win in this game on penalties. I think if we'd have lost on a scoreline like I predicted last week, I would have been a little bit more. I don't know. I'd probably be a little bit more mixed on my feelings, because I did expect us to lose the game. So really, I'm kind of like pleasantly surprised, both by the performance in terms of the quality, but also I feel like there were good patterns of play, man. I feel like a lot of the chances that we created came from good moves. They didn't look like individual bits of brilliance, which we've kind of relied on in years gone by, or counter attacks and stuff like that. I think that Rashford one where he curls it past the post, that's a beautiful move that goes through the whole of defence and passes through from side to side through like nearly all 11 players on the pitch. So, and I saw that numerous times throughout the game. So it was really encouraging, man. The few things that I wanted to see, because I don't expect us to turn into prime Barcelona in terms of style of play, but was that we look more defensively solid. And I think having two in midfield helped that. And then actually show some sort of patterns of play when it came to going forward and transitioning from defence to attack. And I think we did that. So I know Man City weren't at their full strength, so I'm not going to go, oh my God, and go, as crazy as I did after the cup final. But I feel like it was a really positive performance. So yeah, I'm naturally upbeat about the whole thing, and losing on penalties hasn't kind of destroyed that vibe. I still feel very positive about that going into Fulham on Friday.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree with that. I definitely think that you looked a lot better. And I mean, we talk about predictions that we made beforehand. This was kind of what I was thinking again, right? Like, not that you are going to get jammy or anything, because I think in the cup final last year, it wasn't jammy either. You just, for some reason, turn up and play well against Man City. And I think it was very similar this time. And I think by the time the 90 minutes was up, I was thinking that I was going to be right again, because generally speaking, Man United don't really lose penalty shootouts.
We're decent at penalties. We're decent.
Yeah. So I was thinking that you'd probably be able to do that. And then looking at, obviously, Man City's team, they had a lot of youngsters in there. And it wasn't, as you say, it wasn't like their full strength 11. So I thought there was always a chance that they could mess up a few penalties here and there. Especially when they've got like their goalkeeper taking the bloody fifth penalty or whatever it was, and taking a very good penalty. I must admit, he is a very good penalty taker. But I think overall, I think you played really well, and I think there's a lot of positives to take from the game. I think, as you said, you created good chances. You did really all of the work you needed to do right up until the end, I think, for a lot of your chances, and that was the issue, right? Like just what you said about the Ahmad chance. He did pretty much everything right until the very end with the Rashford kind of opportunity. All of the build-up play was really good, and then he just can't do it at the end in terms of putting it past the post with his left foot. And I think generally speaking, if you can just get a little bit luck, a little bit of luck at the end, or if you can just maybe zone in and switch on at certain times, I think you will end up scoring a lot more goals, and your offense will look a lot better than they did last year. And I think really that's got to be the thing that needs to improve, because I know people talk about your defense and facing all these shots here and there and everywhere else. But my biggest issue about Man United was always, last season at least, was always their attack. And how without Rashford, you just didn't really look all that menacing. And I know obviously with Højlund, he put in some good performances and scored some good goals, but you just didn't really look like your attack had any real rhythm to it, or it really had any logic to it. It was just kind of like amazing things here, there, and everywhere else, or just route one simple football. But I think this year your attack looks like it's going to be a lot more like logical. It's going to be a lot more kind of calculated in how you go forward. And I think players like Ahmad will definitely add to that. I think getting Mount into the team a lot more this season should add an attacking element. But it'll be interesting to see how Bruno plays alongside of him. And then obviously Rashford is going to continue to be Rashford. And I think, again, he's a fan favourite, so I'm assuming you're going to continue to play him even if he has a rough patch. But the likelihood is if he hits one kind of patch of form, that's a lot of goals scored. right? And it's a lot of good attacking play done. So I would imagine that at some point this season he is going to, hit a little patch of form, and then is going to turn things around, and you're going to see Man United banging in quite a lot of goals. So overall, I mean, like, you didn't even see Xerxes, you didn't see a lot of like the new players. Obviously, we'll talk about it a little bit later, but you've got De Ligt and Mazraoui now as well. So there's a lot of promise there. And I think if your signings are decent and they add to and improve your team, then I think overall Man United should look a lot better this season than they did last season. So I think a lot of positives to take from it. It was interesting to see a couple of memes, funny memes of Ruud van Nistelrooy on the bench looking at Rashford wearing his number, missing sitters. And he's just got like a confused face on. But it'll be interesting to see. And I think that, Ten Hag looks like he's upbeat. He's kind of recovered a bit as well, which is good after what happened last season and all of the madness about possibly getting sacked and so on. So overall, it looks kind of like a new Man United, almost as if last season didn't happen. So I think overall it should be pretty good for you. So yeah, we'll see if you can meet the predictions that we put for Man United as well. Whether they'll get into the top 4 or 5th or whatever that might be, but they could even do a little bit better than that depending on how well they play. So